Welcome back. You're watching Ask the Handicapper. We go on for another half an hour or so. It's really rushed by that first, hasn't it? 45 minutes.
Rapid.
Crikey, yeah, rapid. Good word. Right, Hugh has been on. Although the problem with your tweet, Hugh, is that I have even noticed a factual error in your tweet. So the chances are Phil will notice it as well, but we'll try and brush over it and hope that he doesn't. He's talking about horses, and horses effectively, what he's saying is, who are tailed off or well beaten in races that suddenly turn up against each other at massive differentials. And he goes back to a race at Hamilton on the 25th of May, and he picks out a horse claimed by Richard Fahey called Picardo. And the winner of that race, which was a horse called Born Innocent, trained by Pat Shanahan over in Ireland. You love those Irish imports, don't you, that hack up. Basically, he wants you to explain the £13 difference between these animals. Born Innocent went into the race on the back of 3 tailed-off efforts, and Picardo...
I'm not talking the other way around. Picardo went off. Did you not think?
No, Picardo went into the back of it on the back of 4 runs.
Okay.
And, of course, Hugh did say 3 in his tweet, but Picardo had 4, Born Innocent had 3, and there's £13 between them in the handicap. How do you work all that out?
Well, I think you find that one of Picardo's runs was actually quite a good run. He was only beaten 3 3¾ 4 lengths in one of them. And obviously that was one of his maidens, and that's where he got his rating from. He then ran in a handicap and actually ran respectably, but he got dropped a couple of pounds. He wasn't beaten a million miles, but he got dropped a couple of pounds. So his 3 qualifying runs were 65 and then 2 pretty duff efforts. So he was given 65. For obvious reasons. He then ran in a handicap and ran okay-ish, got dropped a couple of pounds, and that's why he was on 63 in that race.
But you wouldn't give Charles Burns' horse a handicap rating. How did you give Pat Shanahan's horse a handicap rating? Having been beaten 31 lengths, 11 lengths and 20 lengths, how did you conjure up this figure of 52?
Well, 31 lengths, 11 lengths and 20 lengths is very, very different from 78 lengths, 102 lengths and 164 lengths.
All degrees of being tailed off, though, isn't it?
Well, I don't think 20 lengths is totally tailed off, is it? And certainly
in a flat race?
Whichever, but yeah, but
if you'd backed a horse beaten 20 lengths in a flat race, would you not consider yourself tailed off?
Not really, no.
Well, you're a very happy punter then.
Not tailed off.
Crikey.
Not tailed off.
A long way behind?
He's well beaten. Yeah.
Well beaten?
He's well
God,
beaten. Started 10 to 1.
You're being put up horses beaten 50 lengths in the Grand National, £10 they'll go up in future, judged by this conversation.
Started 10 to 1, Born Innocent.
The simple fact of the matter is...
So we set a puzzle and nobody solved it?
Yeah. But the simple fact of the matter is, Phil Smith...
Is that a yes?
The simple fact of the matter is, Phil, that Hugh has actually picked the wrong area to be questioning you on. Because, of course, the right area is that you got this horse hopelessly wrong, didn't you?
Which one? Born Innocent.
Ran off 52, 2 races later wins off 61, then second off 67. This was a horse who had been readied by Shanahan. 3 runs, he absolutely put the wool over your eyes, got the handy. How did you rate it 52? And he has sat at home as that rating's come through on the computer and he's thought, I'll have you, and he did.
Well, first of all, horses improve. That's the art of a trainer and the skill of a trainer, isn't it? So, but I think I have no problem with what his initial rating of 52.
Okay. Jordan also says, would I just remind Phil that Smart Prescott has done him again? Cartwright, last night, and for the next few races that Cartwright runs in. He's done you. Completely destroyed the system.
Okay, we'll see.
What are you going to do to stop Cartwright winning?
Not my horse, not my race. So, but I'll find out and I'll send you a text.
You did do this the last time that we were in on our...
Well, I can't be responsible for every race that's wrong.
When you're defeated by a horse, you merely say it's one of my workers.
No. I had a horse the other day that of St Mark's, which I had to deal with.
Right.
That won very easily.
And how did you deal with that?
I put it up £15. So
you basically, as good as, took Sir Mark Prescott into your office, rang him by the neck and said, I've had enough of you.
No, the horse...
£15 for a win?
Yep.
No wonder Sir Mark puffs on that cigar like he does. I mean, unbelievable stuff. Colin Black has tweeted, can you ask the handicapper, there seems to be more handicap races than ever. Is this done for the bookies' benefit? This is a question that I don't know whether you got any stats on, but are them, you'll know, I mean, I always think there are more conditions races than ever, there are more group races, certainly. More handicaps than ever?
I think there's, if there is, it's marginal. I don't think there is. There may be a few more, but I don't think it's massively different from what it's been in the past.
Shall we have a look at the top horses at the moment?
I think we should.
Let's see who are doing best at the moment. Because I did get one tweet in, actually, which, Phil, you can answer this as we look at this sheet. This was from... Let me just see. This is good TV, isn't it? Gaz Robinson. He says, of current ratings and including allowances, who does Phil think will win the Arc de Triomphe? And he's asking for an opinion here, Phil, so we don't want any of this, well, I can't have an opinion on that, but the rating is. Postponed or minding?
Well, let's first of all talk about the figures on your system there. They're the figures that the international handicappers have got at the moment. There's going to be a few changes. The next edition of the Longines World Rankings will be published tomorrow on the IFHA and BHA websites. So there'll be one or two little changes. What happens is that this list is sent out to the handicappers around the world, and there'll be emails flying here and there saying, well, no, I think this should be higher or lower or whatever. And so there'll be one or two little changes. For example, I think I've already told you that Ito is no longer on the list. You've got that on at 120.
Apologies, I did ask for it to be taken off.
And that's going to be 180.
You know, Phil, you're dealing with this lot. I asked for it to be taken off, and it's still there.
And it's still there.
I can do no more.
OK. There's some emails flying around at the minute about Galileo Gold.
Yeah.
Remember, because my colleague Dominic, he thinks that Galileo Gold should be 122, so we're waiting to see what response there is from around the world on that. He wants Galileo Gold and the Gurkha on the same, and I can totally see why.
Yep.
So there'll be one or two others. Ortard, who really hasn't replicated his performance earlier in the year, I think will probably be out of that list. But it's a very, very interesting list because they're only the European horses in the list. Right? So they're just the top European performances. And what strikes me about them, two or three things that strike me about them, is first of all how scrunched up they are together, if that's a word that you understand, Matt. You know, there's no 130s, 129s, 128s or anything. And at the moment, we're actually, obviously, we're sort of 2/3 of the way, maybe, through the season. So I expect quite a lot of those horses to progress into 24, 25, 26, 27s. I particularly think the 3-year-old crop this year is quite good. So I'm sure that some of them will go higher. So at the moment, they're all, what I would say, much too tight together. And as they progress, and as some of them cope with the changes in the weight for age scale, then I suspect some of them will go higher.
The Juddmonte International is going to be key, isn't it? Because if Postponed rips up Hornbill, then that gives you a line into the Gurkha.
It does.
And that, I mean, I'm of the opinion that Postponed could be completely different class to all these horses.
Well, I think I've mentioned on this show before that in previous meetings that we have of the international handicappers, I've been a big Postponed fan. So his subsequent performances have vindicated what I said at the time. So I'm really pleased about him. But I do worry about him next week at York.
Why? Because
his performances at 1.5 miles are in a different league to 1.25 miles. So I am slightly concerned that he's in a sense going to be playing an away game.
You see, you've made an absolute blazing error in your form judgment there.
Go on then. Tell
because I put it to you, Philip Smith, that Postpone's 1.25 miles form is catastrophic compared to his 1.5 miles form. However,
so you agree?
Why do you always have to butt in? If you do this in BHA meetings, you'll get nowhere.
Sorry.
However, if you would let me finish, I put it to you that Postpone's 1.5 miles form is in a different stratosphere to the 1.5 miles form you would have been comparing with his 1.25 miles form in the past, i.e. this is a different horse in his last 3 runs to all his other races.
Yeah, I agree.
You didn't say that.
No, but I still think his 1.5 miles form is considerably better than his mile and a quarter form.
But of course it is, because he hasn't run at a mile and a quarter since he started improving.
And yes, I take the fact that he's improved.
Goodness me.
If you remember, I always thought he was a good horse. I did say this earlier.
You did, yeah.
Right? I always thought he was a good horse. But I just worry about a horse coming back from a mile and a half to a mile and a quarter when he clearly relishes a mile and a half. So that's a worry, right? My second worry is he's got to give Minding a serious amount of weight, right? So I think the weight for age in the Juddmonte is 8, if I'm right. Weight for age is 8, but he's also got to give it a £3 fillies allowance as well. Now, if you just look at our ratings there, we've got Minding on 120 and Postponed on 124. Well, the weight for age is calculated within the rating, so you can forget that, but there's still the £3 fillies allowance. And Minding, again, to my mind, seems, I mean, she's very versatile, which is fantastic. She's won at a mile and a quarter, mile and a half, Group 1s at all those races, at all those distances. But just for me, I think she's probably best at a mile and a quarter. So you've got a horse that's on 124, running against a 120. He's got to give a £3 sex allowance. He's running over a distance that might be below his best, and she's running at her optimum distance. So I have a slight concern about that. However, there's another fly in the ointment, and that's Hawkbill, who is progressive and progressive and progressive and progressive. And again, I've got my deputy Dominic is a big Hawkbill fan, and it's interesting.
We know that because of what he's done to countermeasure.
And if you look at Hawkbill there, again, he's on 121 at the moment. Have a look on the IFHA website tomorrow. He might well be 122 because, again, Dominic has sent emails out around the world because he believes Hawkbill should be 122. So something for your viewers to have a look at over the next 24 hours, IFHA and BHA websites, which will have updates on that.
They will, and it is well
so don't underestimate Hawkbill in that race.
OK. Funny enough, I am underestimating him. I don't think he's as good as you think.
Well, don't, because he only seems to do just enough to win.
That is true.
And you like horses like that, don't you?
I do, but he's going to have to do more than that in the Juddmonte International to be postponed.
Anyway, looks a great race, doesn't it?
Our tweeter, who was talking about the Arc, though, Postponed and Minding, Gaz Robinson, the fascinating horse for the Arc, as far as I'm concerned, because we just don't really know how good he might be, is Order of St George. You know, is he the next Ardros? But in a strongly run Arc, he's only got on official ratings £4 to find.
I agree.
He'd be a he's a horse we just do not know how good he is.
Remember as well that those figures that you just had on your screen are what their best performances are for 2016. And Order of St George ended last season on 124. So we know he's capable of that, albeit over 2 miles, right? But he was only on 120 on what he's achieved so far this year. So I couldn't put you off Order of St George. But let me throw another horse into that mix as well, Harzand.
Well, underestimated every time he's run.
Yeah. Now, I believe, this is just a personal view, that at the moment we've underestimated the international handicappers. I think at the moment we're slightly underestimating this year's 3-year-olds. I think we've actually got a real good European crop, and I'm sure they're going to prove that as the year goes on. But again, something that one of your viewers or some of your viewers may have noticed about that list, all the top European horses so far this year above 120. What was noticeable about that list, Matt? One key thing that I know you'll have spotted about that list. Can you get the list put back?
Hold on, let me have a look at the list again.
There's one absolutely key thing
in respect to
how things are going to change over September, October.
Well, wait for age scale.
Wait for age scale is important, but you look at the list.
Okay. So something's going to change.
What do you notice about that list of current European top performances in 2016 above 120?
What do I notice about that list? Well, Jet Setting's going to go down. That is for sure.
No, what's not there?
What's not there?
Yeah.
What is not there? What's coming back?
What's not there on that list?
What is not there on that list? Oh, there are people screaming around the country saying...
Well, I think most of your viewers will have spotted it, so I better tell you. OK? There's not one horse trained in France.
There is not a single viewer out there.
No, I think most of
I
your
thought you were
viewers-
going to say something sensible then. You come out... No, well, there's not one horse trained in Korea on that list either.
Well, that's because they're the top European horses.
OK, well, there's not one horse trained in Belgium on that list.
No, because they don't
There's
generally
not one horse trained in Sweden on that
They
list.
generally don't have.
There's not one horse trained in Norway on that list. If you'd said to me, name European countries that are not on that list, I'd have done it.
Yes, but last year, which of the other list I sent you of the 2015, right, there were 9 French horses on the list at the end of the year.
OK.
Right. So isn't that interesting?
Gotta go for a break.
So far this year, none. Last year, 9. There'll be a lot of French horses will show 120+ horse form as the year goes on.
Yeah. When you said I believe just now, I was sure you were going to burst into Frankie Lane or something. It was unbelievable. Anyway, so to make it absolutely clear, Phil Smith, the chief handicapper of the BHA, says the French are rubbish. We'll be back.